Hello and namaste everyone. Welcome to our BSc podcast and season 1. Today म नेपालीमै भन्छु. आज हामीसँग बिल्कुलै नयाँ गेस्ट चाहिँ हामीले आमन्त्रण गरेका छौं र उहाँ नेपालमा एकदमै चिर परिचित हुनुहुन्छ र उहाँको नाम चाहिँ क्यारोल इन्स्किप र उहाँलाई हामी विभिन्न धेरै छ उहाँको प्रोफाइलको बारेमा जानकारी गराउनु पर्यो भने तर हामी चाहिँ सबै प्रोफाइल बताउनु भन्दा पहिला उहाँलाई चाहिँ स्पेशली उहाँ केमा विज्ञ हुनुहुन्छ भन्ने कुरामा म तपाईलाई छोटोमा जानकारी गराइहाल्छु. उहाँ चाहिँ ornithologist हुनुहुन्छ, conservationist हुनुहुन्छ र ecologist हुनुहुन्छ. ornithologist भनेको चाहिँ पन्छीविद हो उहाँ चाहिँ स्पेशली. सो उहाँ नेपाल आउनु भइसकेपछि उहाँलाई हामीले चाहिँ टाइम लिएर हाम्रो पोडकास्टमा चाहिँ उहाँलाई प्रस्तुत गराउने भन्ने एउटा प्रयास थियो. सो आज यो प्रयास सफल भएको छ. सो आजको कन्भर्सेसन अङ्ग्रेजीमा हुनेछ, इङ्ग्लिसमा हुनेछ र मैले जानेको इङ्ग्लिस चाहिँ मैले चाहिँ यहाँ प्रयोग गर्नेछु र सायद अलिकति पर्फेक्ट नहुन पनि सक्छ, अलिअलि मिस्टेक पनि हुन्छ. त्यस लागि चाहिँ एकदमै म माफी माग्न चाहन्छु. सो बट हामी चाहिँ ट्राई चाहिँ गर्नेछौँ. सो आजको टपिक चाहिँ क्यारोल स्किप म्यामको चाहिँ आफ्नो लाइफको बारेमा, उहाँको आफ्नो पास्ट लाइफको बारेमा, प्रेजेन्ट लाइफको बारेमा र उहाँको एउटा एडभेन्चरस एउटा लाइफ छ उहाँको, त्यो विषयमा बसेर हामी विभिन्न छलफलहरू गर्नेछौँ र आई होप you guys will enjoy this BSc podcast. So ma'am, welcome to our BSc podcast.
Thanks very much for inviting me.
I was so excited, so happy to have you in our program. And it was my pleasure and my honor to have you here.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I'll be happy to talk to you.
So, I have researched a few things about you in internet, and I've seen some articles, and I've watched some biography detail in websites about Carol Inskip, and I found a few things, not everything, but I've just found a few things. So I want to start it from the first questions. How was your childhood in Britain?
Well, I was born in not a poor family, what we call like a lower, maybe upper working class.
Okay.
You know, UK we have working class, middle class, upper class. We used to, and I was born in a kind of upper working class family. And I lived in quite an urban environment, actually. It was in a coal mining village.
Okay, coal mining
village, yeah. Probably the air pollution was probably quite bad, though I didn't recognise it at that time. But from a very early age, my mother said, even when I was a baby, she said, I was always pointing out, getting very excited about birds. She remembered.
Wow.
Even when I was a baby, yeah. For some reason, I still am. So,
because as I found the details in the website, you started recording birds in 1958 as a young girl. Was there any specific reason why you chose to be an ornithologist?
Well, no, I just always had this fascination and enjoyment, really, I think. And I still do have a great deal of enjoyment from just watching and observing birds. And I don't know what made me start writing it down, you know, recording.
Okay.
But I've always enjoyed writing. I've always enjoyed writing about things. So I suppose the two went together. So I have my notebooks back to, as you say, 1958, and I still have them today.
Because you love writing.
I do love writing, and of course I enjoy, you know, writing about birds. So I used to enjoy watching birds, and then recording birds, and I suppose that developed into identifying. And as I used to birdwatch on my own, I would learn. I learned it myself. You know, there wasn't much in the way of field guides in Britain then, and I didn't have any binoculars
Okay.
until I think I was about 15.
You're so curious about the bird's life from the beginning.
Yeah. For some reason,
For
and
some reason.
I'm still am. Yeah, yes, that's right. But as well as identifying the birds, my interest. Now, when did that start? That would be when I was about 18 or 19. I started my interest in conservation, nature conservation, and really my main interest now is in conservation of birds and also other wildlife as well. Of course, I'm interested in identifying, but my main interest now is conserving birds, conserving the environment, conserving their habitat.
And writing is your main subject.
Yeah.
You already published more than 15 books, including Birds of Nepal, Birds of Bhutan, and Birds of India and Subcontinent, right?
Yes.
And there were other books. I got a few of them. You published a book called Killer Whale.
Koalas.
No, Killer Whale.
Oh, killer whale, yes.
And the
killer whale.
Reducing and Recycling Waste.
Yes.
Koala. Nature for
Koalas.
People.
Yes.
Conserving Our Freshwater. Travel and Tourism Global Village.
Yeah.
You have already
that
lots of books.
Yes.
You already published so many books related to conservation. How you got all these ideas and thought about writing so many books? If you talked about me, then I can't write a single books.
I don't know what makes people want to write, actually. All of those books, Koala, Killer Whale, the main focus of all of those books is on their conservation, actually. There's a bit, obviously, some about how they live and habitat, but the main aspect, is conservation and travel and tourism. That is really focused on reducing tourist impact on the environment and sustainable tourism, how tourism can encourage, local communities to conserve the environment.
Okay.
That's the tourism books mainly focused on that.
And what about Nature for People?
Nature for People, yes. I didn't really like the title of that one. They changed it because I don't really think that nature is there for people. I mean, of course, people enjoy nature, but that's not why nature is there, and so I was very unhappy about that. My original title for the book was Nature and People.
Nature and People.
Yeah.
Okay, but they changed the title Nature for People then.
Yes.
So you wrote another book about koala. It's an Australian mammal.
Yes. Yeah.
So you went to Australia too.
Well, my brother, I don't have any sisters, just one brother.
Mm-hmm.
And in
Younger brother?
Just a little younger. Nearly the same age. He moved to Australia in 1970 and lives in Tasmania. And so I visited Australia a number of times. And who couldn't be delighted by by koala? So that's what inspired me to write that one.
Okay, that's cool. After graduating from Darlington High School for Girls, studied chemistry and ecology at the University of Sheffield and University of
Durham, yeah.
You were the student of chemistry, right?
Yes.
But why you choose the ecology?
Well,
you can be a chemist at the time, right?
The question is the other way around. Why not? Why was I doing chemistry? Because I was always interested in biology.
Biology, okay.
And but my my father, I mean, it was a long time ago then, you know, they're talking about the early 1960s.
1960.
And at that time, my father was quite conservative. Well, he was always conservative. And he felt that if I was going to stay on at school past 16, I should be doing useful subjects, not biology. So he wanted me to do maths, physics, and chemistry.
That's why you...
So that's...
Well, you were compelled to study chemistry at that time.
Well, I actually found chemistry was fun, actually.
Actual chemistry was fun.
There's been a lot of the laboratory experiments, and I used to enjoy those a lot. The experiments, you know, that we did, mixing things together, different coloured glasses and all that. I used to think that was a lot of fun, yeah. And then after I wanted to go to university, and my father didn't really like the idea, but my mother insisted that I go, and he said, fine, but she's do chemistry. And so I did. And I think it was a good training for me. It was a good training in scientific thinking, so it wasn't wasted on me. Really good training in scientific thinking. And after I got my degree in chemistry, I got my own way, because then I said I want to do a master's in ecology. And that's then, so my you know, it gave a complete shift then. So that's when I was studying ecology and the environment.
So they didn't object to you at that time?
It was my mother again. By that time, I suppose my dad, he just gave in, I suppose. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, my brother also did chemistry, and so we both did. They still thought I would grow out of my love for birds, you know, but of course I didn't. I met my husband Tim as well. And
I'll come to him.
Later.
I have another question about him too.
Yeah.
Because you got the master degree in ecology from University of Durham in 1970, right?
Yes.
In 1970, you just finished your master degree also.
Yeah.
So, as you look back on your past and now, do you ever regret that? Do you ever regret about being a ornithologist or studied ecology?
Oh no!
Do you regret that?
Not at all.
You don't?
Not at all. I think I've been very lucky to get what I wanted.
Wow! So at that time, when you were young at the time, your mother was your inspirations.
Yes, my mother.
Right?
She was
always
my strongest.
She supported
supporter.
all the way, all the time.
Strongest supporter. She was always. Yeah, she passed away now, but she was always my strongest supporter.
You still remember her? I know. You still miss her, right?
Yeah, I do.
So you met with Tim in 1972, right? Or 1971?
We met a bit earlier. We met about a year or so earlier, because my boyfriend at that time was Tim's landlord. Tim was working for the Royal Society for Protection of Birds in the UK, and his landlord also worked for the RSPB.
Same, okay.
Okay, and that was my boyfriend at that time, and that's how I met Tim. There.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
I was fascinated because he'd just come back from India and Nepal.
Okay.
He came before me in 1970-71. And he was just full of especially talking about Nepal. We loved it, loved the country, loved the birds. And I was just fascinated. I thought it was fantastic. And so, as you say, 1972, we started relationship then, and married in 76.
76?
No, We married in 77.
77.
We married in June 1977, and 6 weeks later, we went overland to India and Nepal.
You guys were together for so long and explored lots of things together, right?
Yes,
And published lots of books together.
yes. And we're still friends, you know.
Yeah, you told me.
Yeah,
You told me
friends.
last times. Like, after visiting India, Nepal, Bhutan, and Pakistan, you published a book called Birds of Indian Subcontinent, right?
Yes.
Why and how you managed to write that
Well,
particular book?
It was not our idea. The idea to do that, to publish that field guide, came from the advisor to our publisher, who was called, who he's still called, Nigel Redman.
Nigel Red.
But now our co-author, Richard Grimmett,
Yeah.
first author, Richard approached Nigel and said, I want to write a book on a field guide to the birds of China.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And Nigel said, why China? You know? And Richard said, because there's no good book on there at the present time. And Nigel said, well, why don't you do one on, but you haven't even been to China. Why don't you do one on the Indian subcontinent, where you have visited, and invite Tim and Carol?
Mm-hmm.
So Richard invited us to join him. So it was not our idea to write the field guide to the birds of the Indian subcontinent.
But you guys were together.
Richard, Tim and I have been very good friends, yes, since 1982.
No.
1981, probably. Yeah.
That's a long friendship.
A long time, yeah.
So at the time, that was his idea to write about those books.
It was Nigel's idea originally, but inspired Richard, who invited us, yeah. So that's how it happened. But of course, our first book was in 1985, and that was Tim's idea. Our
first
book in 1985, which was on
1985,
Nepal.
okay.
That was
You have so many revised volumes. I can.
the first one in 19.
The first
the
one,
first book the first book I did, the first book we ever did, was in 1985, and Tim said that the Flemings, Bob Flemings, had published a field guide on the birds of Nepal, which they did in 1976. That was the first field guide to the birds of Nepal, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And but Tim said, there's nothing in that book about distribution of birds, you know, where they are in Nepal. So he thought it was a good idea to write a book on that. And our friends just thought, you know, how ambitious is that? To just say you're going to write a book. Who's going to publish your book? And how are you going to do it? But anyway, that was Tim's idea, and we did it together. And we started researching that in 1980, and after our second visit to Nepal, and it was published in. We persuaded a publisher to do it, and that was 85, and then it was revised in 91.
In 91 also.
Yeah.
How many books you guys together published?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Actually, no. I mean,
Tim and Carol?
I don't know. I haven't never counted.
Never counted.
Sorry.
But in your record, you got almost 14 books, but I'm sure it's about 15 to 16 books.
I think it's probably more, to be honest, because I've also, after writing the books with Tim and with Richard, I've also written bird conservation books with Dr. Hem Sagobarro.
Yeah.
There's, I don't know if you counted those. So Hem and I have been co-authoring books now since 2003.
When did you meet with Dr. Himsagar Burl?
Oh, right. Well, he was a guide at Gaida camp in Chitwan National Park, and he wrote to me in 1986 and said we'd missed a bird species out of our book, brown rockchat, and why was that? And I still have that letter he wrote to me. And so we started writing to each other, and friendship developed since then. So really the bird conservation books I've written on Nepal have all been written with, almost all been written with him. Yeah.
The later versions are almost, I got it.
On bird conservation.
On bird
I did
conservation,
write one on my own. Nepal's forest birds, yeah. So him and I should think it's about 7 or 8 books we've written together on bird conservation in Nepal since 2003.
There was a article on the websites about you, and they said it's already 64 years in conservations. Carol.
Can't be since I was 10, can it? I didn't even know about conservation when I'm 74 now. I didn't. The word conservation, when in 1958, I don't think it wasn't.
It wasn't about the conservation, actually. You were fascinated by birds and
yes,
nature.
Yes, but I hadn't been working in conservation. I mean, I just got interested in conservation when I was 18 or 19.
Because at the time,
a bit later.
At the time, you knew the details, you knew the things. You knew about the environments, you knew about the birds and all.
By that age,
right?
I did, but when at 64 years, I was 10 years old, and I don't think in 1958, I don't think anybody really thought about it then, did they?
They said 64 years in conservation.
Well, I have to put them right.
You can tell them about the date. But however, I really admire you. I'm one of the a guy from the East who really influenced by Carol Inskip work. That's why I started to taking the photos of birds.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because otherwise I was not so interested on bird photographies, actually. I started about I used to take photos of landscapes only, But when I saw the birds and when I got the pictures, then I started it. Oh, okay. Now bird photography. So I went a little deeper about conservation. So I collected the books, I collected the details from websites, and I started by myself. But I'm not a specialist in environment or, I'm not an ecologist like you, But
you take some wonderful photos.
Yeah.
August, and I could never. I've never taken any good photos of birds, actually.
Because I was bad in recording, I don't know about the records because it was not my subject, But my subject is just a photography. So later I just changed myself in bird photography, and then now wildlife photography. Now I mainly focus on mammals nowadays.
Oh, in mammals.
Like you focused on invertebrates.
Yeah, it kind of. I mean, I'm just as interested in birds, but I'm supposed to be retired now. I have more time, so
They said you are retired now, but you still engaged with the conservation. You still engaged with the birds.
I will always do that. Yeah, always do that.
I know you will. You will always follow that.
Yeah, sure. I mean.
You can't leave it easily now. So let's talk about Tim and Carol Inskip, right?
Oh yes, Tim.
You met in 1972 as I got the details from websites. So what are the best things that you liked about Tim Inskip?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I was fascinated with his long overland trip through Afghanistan, Iran, Turkey, Iran, Afghanistan, to Pakistan, to India, and to Nepal, and then coming all the way back again, and all the adventures he had, and. I just thought, how exciting he was, and very handsome actually, of course. He was, and he still is actually an exceptionally talented field person, you know, very good hearing, very good eyesight. Not as good hearing and eyesight as he had, because he's nearly 77 years now. But still, he's a very, very good field observer.
Wow. Still, right?
Still, yeah.
Age doesn't matter, because getting older means getting younger. If you have a wilderness in your heart, then you will never get old.
Never lose it. That's right. No.
That's what I believe. So, and they in the website I read about the contributions about Carol Inskip. They said Carol Inskip contribute more than 7,500 wildlife records from North Pennines between 2012 and 2018. Right?
Yeah.
Can you tell me in the brief what are the records?
Well, birds, of course, but the North Pennines area of outstanding natural beauty, it's in the northern hills of England, and it's Nepalis wouldn't consider them hills at all, of course. You would consider them bumps. But nevertheless, they are, in the English landscape, they are hills. But it's close to Scotland, so it's relatively cold.
I saw the pictures.
Cold and wet climate. And it's species poor, really, for... Well, overall, it's species poor. It has some specialist birds. Black grouse is one. That do very well there. There's some summer migrants that come, and there's some lovely broadleaf woods there. There's pied flycatcher, which is our equivalent of your little pied flycatcher. Spotted flycatcher, which is our equivalent of your Asian brown flycatcher.
Oh.
And there's we have 3 species of warblers, leaf warblers, where of course in Nepal you have far more.
We have more.
Yes, so the birds are interesting. So when I retired there. I found that I carry out breeding bird surveys there every year for the RSPB with a friend called Mary, and we look at and I love doing that every year. So in the pastures, the green pastures there, you get some birds here. There are a few species that you get here. There's the Eurasian curlew, northern lapwing, common redshank, and common snipe, which are all regularly recorded here in Nepal, and they breed there. And
Northern Pennines, really?
In the Northern Pennines is a stronghold for these birds, and they breed in the pastures. And there's nothing I love more than you have to get up so early in the morning. I have to get up about 4:30 and go there, and so that's what I love. But I found that I had more time on my hands. There wasn't enough birds, to absorb all my attention, and so I developed this interest in insects. And to answer your question, most of the records that you're saying, over 7,000. There are nearly all of invertebrates, mainly insects, and that area, invertebrates, are poorly known. They really just become active when the sun is shining, and it doesn't very often. So if you can't say, I'm going to look for insects tomorrow, because the weather forecast is good, because the weather forecast is so erratic, you just have to, as soon as the sun comes out, drop everything and go. And not many people can do that. So that's how I got all the records.
It's been, like they said, in 6 years, right?
Yeah.
It took 6 years to record all those.
I'm still doing it. I've been 9 years now.
9 years now.
Yeah.
So you want to increase the records? probably.
Yeah, well, I don't count, but I do really.
They say it's 7,500.
That up to that time, yeah.
2012 to 2018, right?
Recorded more last year than any other year, so.
It's not like Nepal, right? Recording, and we'll come to that point also. So, how many times you have been in Nepal? I mean, how many times you were in Nepal?
24th visit this time.
24th visit.
Yeah. It's 24th. So I haven't, in the last several years, except for last year with the pandemic, of course, last several years I've been coming every year. But there have been spells in my life when I obviously haven't. First visit 77.
Why are you so engaged with Nepal?
I think it's not just the birds and the environment here. I just love the Nepali people. You know, I just really like the Nepali people a lot, and obviously now I've got a lot of friends, Nepali friends here. So that's what brings me back. I mean,
Every year.
Now I'm coming every year now because I don't know how long I can. Okay. So I will come every year.
You can.
And then one day my doctor said in 2003 it was time to hang up my boots, in other words, to stop. 2003.
In 2003?
He told me, yeah.
Why they told you that?
Because of the back problem I had,
Oh, okay.
And I just said, well, I can't.
Can't stop.
And this year he said, you're not still going, are you, to that?
But you came.
Well,
you
yes,
came back.
I mean, I look forward to it. I love
you
it.
went My Valley again this time, right?
Yes. That was a wonderful trip. In fact, it was my best ever trip. This time. It's been my best ever trip to Nepal.
I heard that you saw something new spaces this time.
Yes, we did. A black-breasted thrush first confirmed record, if it's accepted by the Nepal Rare Birds Committee. But it's a vagrant bird. You know, basically that bird is a stray. You know, it should not really be here.
Okay.
It came here by accident.
Okay.
It should be in Assam.
In a swamp, okay.
Okay, and it's a stray, got here. It's exciting. It's a new bird for Nepal. But what I was much more excited about was that Tim and I first did this trek in 1981, 41 years ago. And what was great for me was to see, at that time I kept a diary of the habitat, the forest, extensive cultivation, number of people. And of course there have been huge changes, but there's still, big areas of beautiful forest left there, and we saw some, rare bird species that Tim and I found in 1981. For instance, we saw in the lowlands, County, we saw 2 pairs of a beautiful bird called Asian fairy bluebird.
Really?
And Tim and I found it in 1981.
1981.
And that bird is resident. It doesn't migrate. So it must have been there all the time, And to me, that's more exciting than a new bird for Nepal. That's just, And higher up, again.
You saw that Asian blue fairy?
Asian fairy bluebird.
Asian fairy bluebird.
Very, very blue.
You saw that one this time also?
This time, yeah.
Really? In My Valley?
What I'm saying. We had 2 pairs, and Tim and I had one in 1981. This time we had 2 pairs, and I just thought it was fantastic that it's still there, and it must have been there all the time because it does not move. It doesn't go up and down, it doesn't migrate, and the forest is still as nice as it was when we visited time ago.
Last time we got the red-headed trogon in Fulchuk, right?
Oh, did you?
And
well, that's exciting.
I sent you pictures,
Of
and
course
you said,
did. I remember.
You said it's uncommon resident,
You
said
it
that?
was first seen by local and uncommon. Local and very uncommon, really. It was first found in the Kathmandu, there in Polchoki, by an English a wife of an English diplomat here
Okay.
called Mrs. Desiree Proud. She found it on Bolchoki in 1961, I think.
1961.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's great that you found it again.
And
That's great.
I sent you photos
You
at
did.
that
I do
time,
remember
yeah.
now. I do
Because,
remember lovely picture of it.
It's not a resident, right? It's you told me it's like uncommon resident.
Yeah, it probably hasn't been on Pulcher. Who knows? Actually, it does move up and down, and altitudinally, actually. But although it's a big, colourful bird, it actually sits very still, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And you can't overlook it. So
We waited for more than 4 hours. Keep quiet. We just stayed at the same place for 4 hours, and later we saw movements. There were 3 of them.
3 of them.
Yeah.
I've forgotten that.
I got the shot of 2 in one frame, and the one was just flew away in the photo. You can see it's blurred. Yeah.
Well, I think it.
But when you told me, when you gave me the information about the English diplomat's wife, right? She saw that bird in 1961, right?
Yeah.
In the same place.
Yeah, the same
That's amazing.
place.
That's amazing.
So even though it's a large, very colourful bird, you can see how you can overlook it. Just sits really still.
Yeah.
And so it could be that it's there. It has been recorded on Pulchoki a few times, but not every year.
Not every year.
But it could well be there every year. It's just that people don't find it.
As you said that the bird wasn't in the same place in my valley, right? Like it's like a resident.
Yeah.
I think that the red-headed trogon is a resident of that bird. But every year we can't find it.
It just moves altitudinally, that one, yeah.
So we might try this year, maybe. I don't know. So I will go over there to find it.
Find out, yeah.
But last time we found the Himalayan ruby throat.
Yeah, that's a passage migrant, you see, because that breeds high up, doesn't it? That one. It breeds high, really high.
Really
in the
high.
Subalpine zone, yeah.
But I found, because we clicked that bird around 200 meter altitude, maybe. I don't know.
What? Which month?
Just last month.
Yeah.
In February, I guess. In February. I think
Oh,
I took
right.
that picture.
Well, it was probably wintering there then, yeah. It was
in
probably
February,
wintering there, yes. Wintering. And it breeds very high.
So it's getting interesting all the time about the birds. Are you enjoying our talk?
Yeah, sure.
That's good.
Yeah.
So there's some questions I made myself, and I really wanted to ask you. Why is nature so important for human, or I can say human spaces? Why it's so important to us?
Well, I mean, nature provides us with so much, doesn't it? It provides us with food we eat and virtually all our medicines, even Western medicines, they all originally, they come from wild plants and animals originally. Mm-hmm. Okay? They've been manufactured and changed, but originally they all came from there. So food, medicines, and they obviously, clean rivers, streams, and provide us with the vital water, that we all need to survive. So there are those like bodily needs, if you like, food, medication, water, but also, for the heart and the soul, nature. I think people found this. Some people were lucky enough to find that pandemic, that nature can really heal. Actually, can bring you a lot of comfort, just being quietly in a, or not even quietly, listening to all the noise the birds make. If you're in the forest, you're in nature, it can really be, you know, healing if you're feeling bad, or if you're feeling angry, or feeling hurt, or you're missing someone, if you've lost someone, then nature has a great healing, and you know, provides and also a huge amount of enjoyment, I think, as well. As I say, I always say to people, you know, enjoy the birds, enjoy the mammals, enjoy the wildlife, enjoy the insects, and the other thing, I mean, nature's been such an inspiration to so many artists and poets, and also to religions. If you think, it's so much of the Nepali religions entwined, isn't it?
Yeah.
Peacocks with the natural world. Hinduism, Buddhism, so much. You think about the gods, you know, the elephant god and the peacock, and so all of those things.
There are lots of things related with religions, even the human's daily life, you know. I mean, nowadays, you know, the world is changing all the time, and in Nepal, our country is very small here with the many resources, but we never seriously thought about the natures and the conservations. I don't know why we are not taking serious actions. As you said, nature has its own things. It provides us everything. It heals us. It heals everything in Earth, right?
Yeah.
But in Nepal, we are getting less and less and less aware about the nature and conservation.
That's happening in the UK as well.
Yeah.
And it's a worry that I can only talk here about young people at home in the UK, that they're becoming more and more detached, you know, from the natural environment. They're more and more of our people are living in towns and cities. And so, I mean, some of them are even a bit scared of being in a wood or something like that. They get a bit scared. They think they might get lost, you know.
Into the woods.
In the UK, yeah, children,
Really?
yeah, they think they might get lost. And there's nothing like the forest you have here. You know, we don't call them forests, we call them woods. They're just small. Yeah. Yes, so that is an issue. That's a very, very real issue. So I guess the answer is, what are we going to do about it? So I think what we have to make sure is that we give the young people the experience of nature, you know, to take them, you know, to take them out of the city, you know, to spend a weekend or a day,
like countryside, right?
Out. Yeah. And they can, you know, go camping even, you know, that's a lot of fun, of course. And to give them that experience, and I think even a day out is something that really stays with them, even if they just have a day trip.
Day trip, okay.
You know, even a day trip can make a big impact on, you know, the children. And when they go home, you know, they take it back to their parents, you see, and talk about it. So I think we have to make sure that they experience it and that they enjoy it. If you're going to take them out to nature, you know, make sure that they have a good time.
So they can learn.
Yeah.
They can learn about nature. I mean, they can
Make
observe the
sure
nature.
Yeah,
they can enjoy it.
Fun.
Yeah.
Make sure it's fun.
Okay.
Make sure they enjoy it.
That's the things we needed these days.
Yeah.
Right.
Then they will value it.
What are the role of birds in our world?
What are the
Role. I mean, what are the importance of
I
birds?
think maybe I described that well. I'll just go through similar to nature, really. Right. So birds, say in Nepal, are really important in your culture, and they've been an inspiration for writers and poets in religion, Buddhism, Hinduism, for instance, and food. Controversial point, but food.
Foods, yes,
Birds are important. They are important pollinators. Okay, you know they like sunbirds.
Sunbirds,
for instance. Yeah. So, and there's one interesting. Yes, and also dispersing seeds. Dispersing seeds as well. They're important as scavengers.
Scavengers also.
Like
cleaning.
house crows, for instance.
Yeah.
Kathmandu's full of house crows. And maybe
I don't think.
Well, I love all birds, even house crows. So they provide their important role in cleaning up, helping to clean up rubbish, black kites, and vultures. Vultures, of course, which have been such an important role in cleaning up carcasses, and it's been such a loss that they've decreased so much. Maybe that covers it.
That's all. No worries. But actually, why I just ask this question means like people need to understand their roles. I mean, the importance of birds. Like we can see lots of birds around us, but we don't care. Because what I believe, every species in this earth has its own importance.
Yeah, it's true.
To run this whole earth, right?
Yeah, sure.
Right? That's why I mean, through our conversation, we just trying to aware peoples who are going to listen this one.
Yeah.
Or who are going to watch
it,
big
need for raising, conservation awareness. So as well as taking children out, you need to tell them as well, to explain to them as well, to make them understand. They may just take birds for granted. The magpie robin, is common throughout the cities in Kathmandu, can hear it above all the noisy traffic.
Yeah.
And people take it for granted, but probably most people enjoy it. It's got such a beautiful song.
But maybe... But I've seen few. It's been years. The magpie's population is decreasing around here. I can't see much more.
It's got to yes. It's the little green spaces that they need.
There are much more deforestation in here, in my place actually, in this municipality. That's why. In past few years, we have been seeing some posts and photos in social pages about new records of birds in Nepal, right?
Yes.
And though it's not a important matter, but we will talk about, right? Is it okay?
Yes.
Okay,
that's fine.
it doesn't matter. So, but some articles and some articles also raise the questions about Carol and Tim Inskip research.
Yes, that's unfortunate.
You want to say something about it?
Well, I think first of all the credibility of records. I think there's two issues there. One is, has the bird been correctly identified? Okay, and the other is, where was the photograph taken? And I think the answer there is that photographers should provide what is often called metadata. So the camera has, most people who take the photographs of the birds, good photographs of birds, the information is there on the camera, and it tells you where the picture was taken. So, and I think if that was provided, that would just answer, everything. In regard to the criticism of us, well, it's in a national paper. Maybe they're looking for a story. At first I was annoyed, and then I thought, well, I don't really care. People people want to believe that, then I don't, that's up to them. But I know what I've done, and I know what I've achieved, and Tim as well, and Richard, and I know we've always been honest and straightforward, and so I don't mind. I stopped caring.
Okay, that's a good point. That's a good point.
That. There's always. I think if you are a sort of well-known person, there's always going to be somebody who's wanting to shoot you down.
That's what I thought.
And if you get upset about it,
that's a good point. Yeah.
You shouldn't really.
You shouldn't really care about those.
No.
What we say. No. They criticize it, but you accept it as a compliment. Not a problem,
no,
right?
I don't know about that.
No, but it's been a few years. Actually, I have been posting my photos in a bird conservation group. I started from 2015. I think I started from January month, and since 2015 to 2022, in the meantime, it's been 3 years, I guess. There were lots of photographers, lots of birders, and they kind of created unfair competition, like being a record holder, being getting a new records after 15 years, 20 years, 25 years.
Yeah.
And I just say that's the kind of shit they're doing right now.
Well, I think I suppose I've always been non-competitive.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in being the best.
That's what I thought.
I'm not interested in being the best. I know I'm not the best by a long way. Tim isn't competitive either. We don't compete with each other.
Yeah.
Never have. And neither is Richard. I should just say, I would like to say just something about him, because he's such a really wonderful person, and he's quite a bit younger than us, actually. I'm not sure, he's not 60 yet, but he's the director of conservation. He's the director of conservation of BirdLife International. Yeah. And he is an impassioned conservationist, as well as being a very, very good, field birder. And he's also a very good artist. So he's a very talented person. And he's very modest as well. He's got married with a family and a lovely wife, Helen, 2 children, grown up now. So I don't want to get to the end of my interview without just saying a bit about him.
Okay. That's okay. Because I don't know, because we have a very different concept than the West, and we're in the East. I don't know, like people are running for the records. I don't know why they're running for the records. There's nothing to do in the records.
Oh, but it's just the same. Birding at home in the UK, in my home in the UK, is highly competitive.
Really?
Oh yeah, very, very much so.
So we're having this. So then we're having the same here.
Yeah, and so it's not just it's bird photographers as well, but birders. And the big thing there isn't that somebody's found it for the first time for 200 years or whatever. The big thing there is your year list. The number of birds you record in the year, and there's, intense competition every year for that. And the unsaid thing is that the person who records the most birds in the year is the best.
Best birder. It's not like Nepal.
So it's, I'm afraid that's human nature.
Human nature. I mean, we're greedy,
That's a rather that's not a good sign.
We want the quick fame, in Facebook,
Yeah.
That's
and Facebook also plays a role there too.
That's the big matter in conservation. Like they never think about the conservations. They never think about the birds. They just want to take the photos of birds. That's all.
Yeah.
Even there are some guys like I have seen them. if they want to take the flight shot of birds, do you know what they will do?
Yeah,
You
they
can
make
imagine
them
that,
fly,
right? They can go over the birds.
Yeah.
They'll push over the birds to fly,
Making birds.
and they will
I
get
know,
the
I've seen that as well.
they will get the
I
flight
know,
shot.
it's
I've seen some guys.
yeah. Well, I just try, I just say to people, enjoy your bird watching.
Yeah.
Just enjoy it.
Just enjoy it. You don't
Relax
need to take
and
it.
enjoy
Yeah.
it. That's it.
Whenever I go to a trip for the wildlife photography, I always enjoy myself. Just
Don't lose that.
I really don't need to take photos.
No.
I just
Don't
enjoy
lose
the
that.
wild.
Yeah, just
Okay.
don't lose that. And
I'll keep that in my
this
mind.
competitive side, it's a bad side of human nature. And social media's made it worse.
Uh-huh.
And there's no question that you mentioned that. That's true. I shouldn't be. It has. I'm not sure of a way round that, really. I thought about unsubscribing to Facebook, but that is the way. Facebook for me is how I keep in touch with what's going on here when I'm not here.
But we are using it as a platform. It's like a exhibition, gallery, where we can put our every photo's a bird, every photo's of mammals, and we are in the run of records. That's why I never upload my picture on those groups and pages nowadays. I stopped.
I'm not sure the answer to it, really. I thought, well, if I unsubscribe, then I'm the loser.
Yeah. That's the problem here. Okay. We're coming to we're going to finish the podcast. It's going to be 55 minutes, but I will take more 5 minutes of you.
Okay.
So it will be 1 hour.
Minutes, okay.
That's all right?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
That's fine?
That's fine.
Okay. There are so many people out there who really admire your works, your research, especially youngsters, nowadays, who follows your works in conservation. Like your books we were published at the times. Even I have that book. Even I follow that book. There were too many youngsters in Nepal nowadays who really admire your work, and they, for the research, they took your book as a reference, right? And some youngsters are studying about the environment. They're engaged with nature subject. So actually, what I want to ask you is, there are so many people out there who really admire you, right? They admire your works. So for the young generation, for the youngster who really want to work in conservation, who really want to be a ornithologist in future, maybe, I don't know. Do you have any motivational suggestion to them?
Yes, I think if you really want to, be an ornithologist or a conservationist, that you really need to be very determined and focused about what you want. I was very lucky, I think, but at the same time, I was very determined that to do what I wanted, and that's what happened in the end. I was able to do what I wanted just because I was so determined. And I would say to don't lose your enjoyment in watching birds and watching wildlife. Keep that in your heart, the enjoyment. And you may think you cannot do very much, but you can start in a small way. You might be able to start a club at school, or go out with some friends and encourage them as well. Have fun together. And if you see any local issues, at home, in your home environment, things you don't like, the river's getting polluted, there's rubbish everywhere, or something you think isn't right, then do something about it. You know, write to the paper, make your voice heard. There's so many ways you can do that now. Just shout about it and make people listen.
Well, that's a good motivational speech. You just gave. So at last, what do you think about the life? What is life? We have learned all the way.
About?
Life.
Life.
Yeah.
What do you mean, what I think about life?
We have a different perception about life. Some people call life is beautiful, life is something, life is struggle, something like that.
Oh,
what do you think of it?
Life, yeah.
What is life?
Well, I think life is beautiful and exciting.
And exciting.
So that's what I think. And it's certainly well worth living and fighting for.